Bootcamps can teach you a basic level of coding, but they are terrible at getting you a job. Okay, so who am I and why do I have a vendetta against bootcamps? Well, 5 years ago, I went on one, and since then, I've worked my absolute butt off to become senior engineer. I've mentored, taught, helped hundreds of junior software engineers, created a huge community for them. But most importantly, I've been picking up the pieces where bootcamps have been dropping them. Yes, you are the pieces. Why are bootcamp job guarantees useless? How do they use statistics to lie and entice you in? What makes bootcamp career services terrible? Should you still go on one? And if you have been on one, how do you actually then get a job? Are all the things I'm about to cover. How do bootcamps use statistics and relationships to entice you in? We're going to get some visual help with this one. Look what I've got right here. These are super rare magic beans. I mean, as you can tell, they're actually skills, but you knew that. If you take one, you will gain 3 inches in height, and £1 million will appear in your bank account in the next 10 seconds. It sounds ridiculous, but it tastes so good. I'm gonna finish this. Right, so it sounds ridiculous, but you'd still take one, wouldn't you? I would. Well, many years ago, there was a lot of fear about the digital skills gap, so these shiny new things called bootcamps popped up all over the place and started churning people out. Many companies were open to taking them on because a lot of these people were career changers. They had transferable skills. They were really, really good in other areas of the business. So essentially, they were getting magic beans for the price of skills. At that time, in the early 2018, 19, and even early 2020, a lot of the bootcamps were self-paid, so that means there was a lot less people going through them, which ultimately meant that companies were hiring them without any real hiring process. This also led to a lot of those companies building relationships with the bootcamps. Now, for those unfortunate souls who did not get to meet with one of the partner companies, they were left to fend for themselves. You're not confident enough to speak on your own? Bye. You've not got pink hair? Bye. If you don't see what was happening here, basically the bootcamps were taking the skills, people, with the highest chance of getting hired and putting them in front of the companies, even if they weren't right for the job. For them, it was a win-win. Now, when I was going through a bootcamp, that was a really crappy thing that I witnessed. Instead of helping people with their confidence, with their speaking ability, and training them in interview prep, they were just hiding them away and letting them fend for themselves. And these were people who were paying thousands and thousands of dollars to be on those bootcamps. Now, how does that correlate to statistics? Well, we all know 100% of statistics are made up 99% of the time. Okay, so let's move the timeline forwards a little bit. You come along and you decide you want to be a software engineer. Fantastic, you really should. I became one, it's a fantastic area. But the issue did, so did lots of other people. And all of a sudden, you weren't the only magic bean. To add to the woes, a lot of these bootcamps also started getting government funding, especially in the UK. So now we've got tens of thousands of people each year taking bootcamps and the market being flooded. And then what happens? The hiring partners actually decide we're on a hiring freeze. Or maybe they took a bad magic bean. It wasn't even a magic bean. It was a kidney bean disguised as a magic bean. And now they don't hire from the bootcamp anymore. Instead, they're going back to their traditional grad scheme. However, you don't know that. All you see is that they place 89% of people after 12 weeks. What you didn't know is that that was 2 years ago. And they were going to get hired anyway because there was no real interview process involved. So where are we right now in the market? Companies are hiring less and people who are going through bootcamps are not getting picked up by the partners for 3 reasons. There are more people on the market to fill the numbers. Number 2, less companies are actually starting to partner with bootcamps. And number 3, bootcamps are actually seeing less profitability now and they're moving away from helping the average Joe and moving to business contracts. Because let's face it, they don't really care about your career, they care about their bottom line. So bootcampers are having to go on the open market, they're having to go against other bootcampers, they're having to go against graduates, they're having to go against international students, they're having to learn that actually, I do not know how to interview, my resume is crap, I'm getting no calls back, what do I do next? So what we've just witnessed is how bootcamp job guarantees work. They were from a previous time when people were paying for their own places. There were a lot less people on the market. Bootcamps were new and shiny and they had a higher success rate in placing people because they didn't have to interview because companies were open and willing to these career changers who were on the market. That is how they use statistics and relationships to entice you in. Why the job guarantees have become useless. So you now have to rely on the bootcamp career services. Fantastic. Let's go through why that is a complete show. When I started in this industry, I had absolutely nobody to tell me what I should be doing or how I should be doing it. Starting with the resumes. Should it have been 2 pages? 1 page? No one could tell me what a recruiter was looking for and nobody could prepare me for a technical interview. So I did what I normally do when I'm faced with adversity. I doubled down and battled it out. I sent out hundreds of resumes. I applied for hundreds of jobs. I ended up doing so many interviews that I was getting cussed out from people because they thought I was hogging them. But I wasn't. Why was I doing all this? Because at the time I was going through it, I was teaching all the people on my bootcamp what they should expect in an interview, what resume format works, what keywords to use in their resume, how to handle behavioral interviews. As a career changer, this stuff was tough. It continued throughout my whole career, and I now write the Junior Developer Survival Guide, which is my newsletter on Substack. I run the UK's only meetup specifically for junior developers. I have over 11,000 followers on LinkedIn where I post a lot of this content daily. I'm building the resource that I wish I had when I was getting into the industry. And I have now even launched a Developer Careers Academy where I'm teaching people the skills to land interviews, past the resume stage, how to ace technical and behavioral interviews. What does this have to do with the terrible career services that you've experienced at your bootcamp? By the way, if you are at bootcamp watching this and you want some help, reach out to me on LinkedIn and I will design your career services because I want to see people thrive in tech. Okay, so say for example, you wanted to be a star football player. You wouldn't go to a high school basketball coach for advice. Probably not. I mean, the foundations are the same, right? It's a sport. But there are specific things an experienced football coach can teach you that a basketball coach will have no idea about. The majority of career services are run by basketball coaches. They are people who have never applied for a software engineering job. They are people who have never had to do a technical interview. They are people who have never had to do a behavioral interview with a software engineering company. So how can they teach you how to do the same? They can't. Interviews are competitive and each company approaches them differently. Now, I will be fair, those career coaches and services will get you foundationally ready. They may tell you to write your resume like this or be confident in your interview, but it's usually generic advice that you can find online anyway. Right now, at this stage in your career, you don't need generic advice. You need to be competitive on the market. You need to stand out and you need to know what to be prepared for. Now, all that generic stuff works when they had partner companies. But as I said, this isn't the market anymore. You don't need a basketball coach. You want to be in the big leagues. You want to play for the NFL, you need a star football coach. Magic beans are just staring at me. So that begs the question, should you still go on one? So here's the thing. A bootcamp will not get you job ready in 12 weeks. If a computer science graduate can do 4 years of college or university and not be job ready, how can a bootcamp do that in 12 weeks? It's not realistic. However, I am going to be fair here. As career changers, there's a ton of information out there. It's very confusing. There's so many coding languages, there's frameworks. Don't even get me started on things like OOP and inheritance. There's so many areas within development. You could be a DevOps engineer, you could be a backend engineer, you could be mobile apps. You could even go into the Microsoft Power Platform stack, which I'm not going to get into. There are millions of tutorials to choose from. So going on a coding bootcamp is not a bad idea to build those foundational skills because they will give you a structured, supported learning environment. So if you do want to go on a coding bootcamp, by all means do it, but bear these things in mind. Number one, your aim should be to leave with enough knowledge to continue your learning. Number two, don't quit your job to do it unless you have enough savings to do so. If you do, make sure you get a non-coding job afterwards to support you whilst you're looking for a coding job. Number three, take any job guarantee with a pinch of salt. They put a lot of caveats in place to stop you claiming it. And number four, remember this journey is going to be hard, but it is so worth it. Okay, so let's put a silver lining around those gloomy clouds. So after all what I've said, how do you actually land a job after being let down by your bootcamp career services? So I've already mentioned about the Developer Careers Academy, which I launched, where myself and other senior engineers who have walked the walk and talked the talk now give back within the community to get you all started on the right path. This isn't about code in this community, it's about careers, remember? But I'm going to give you a lot of the information for free. First things first is you need a brilliant resume. It has to be competitive, it has to stand out. Now on my channel, I have a ton of in-depth videos. I go over layouts, how to make it tailored, how to make it unique, the structure, everything of how to write the perfect resume. This information is not just made up, it's battle tested with hundreds of developers. So that's a good way to get practical tutorials. If you prefer to read, you can check out my Substack. The link is in the comments for the Junior Developer Survival Guide, where I have a ton of articles on all the same stuff. Failing that, this is what I'm going to do. There's a link in the comments for the Developer Careers Academy, and in that we have a very in-depth resume course. We have a 7-day free trial. Log in, sign up, do the course, which you can do in a day or two, and then just cancel. I know it sounds ridiculous. I mean, I'm supposed to be making money here, right? But I do this because I want to help people achieve what I achieved and the lifestyle I've achieved from being into this industry. That is my driver. Okay, so you ace having a brilliant resume, but what do you do next? Well, my feedback is always to start sending out 20 at a time. 20 gives you enough time to start monitoring feedback, and then you start making changes, small tweaks, and start sending out another 20 until you eventually start getting more and more responses. But whilst all this is going on, you need to remember 3 things. The first one, keep building projects and improving your skills. The bigger, the better. Number 2, keep networking. Go to hackathons, go to tech events, and go to meetups. Number 3, keep applying to jobs and monitoring responses. Now, there's obviously a lot more to this. There's the technical interview, there's the behavioral interview. If you go to the Developer Careers Academy link, you can also download the free behavioral interview cheat sheet prep. So finally, what I would say is try and get yourself a mentor in the space who can teach you about the interviews, how to prepare for them, and what to expect. Okay, so if you enjoyed this video, a lot of my content is based around how to enter the industry, but when you are in the industry, how to thrive in your career, how to navigate the corporate world as a software engineer, and how to deliver the most impact and value as a career changer. I really enjoy taking people from junior engineer to senior engineer through career tips. So hit that subscribe button and check out my community in the comments, because I'm there with daily posts and weekly coaching calls.